Hotsters, I'm coming in hot today, so hot. Let me ask you a question. So we are about 5 years, we are 5 years after the COVID lockdown. Very difficult time for a lot of us. Many of us lost loved ones, and many of us vowed that if and when we were ever back in a society again, we would do things differently. Here's my question for you. Are you really living differently? Are you living up to how you said you would live back when you weren't sure if the world was ever going to go back to normal? So in today's episode, we are going to take a tough but kind look at how we're living, what we're doing, and are we really committed to everything we committed to so that we can truly thrive? When a friend of mine mentioned that we were coming up on 5 years post-pandemic or post-lockdown, I was really, really stunned. I couldn't believe it. 5 years. We all know that time goes by so quickly. And I was thinking to myself, okay, 5 years, what did I do to better my life? How am I living differently? Because we all had these, if I'm going to do this differently and I'm going to do this differently, and here's what I really liked and here's what I didn't. And for me personally, during the pandemic, I picked up a lot of really good habits. Now, I know not everybody did. And again, I'm not tone deaf here. I know that this was very difficult for a lot of people. At the same time, I remember that time, and I remember being stuck in the house and the way I was behaving, the habits that I was forming, and what I was doing differently that I vowed I would carry through with me into life after the pandemic. So this is not really about guilt. This is about awareness. It's a time to reflect and say, maybe you said you were going to go follow your dream to go, I don't know, work in a circus or whatever. Or maybe you said, you know what, this really worked for me, and not talking to this person actually made me feel better. So when the lights come back on, I'm gonna end that relationship, or I'm not gonna talk to that person. Or maybe it was, all this time in the house really got me thinking, I don't like what I'm doing, so I'm gonna make a change. So here's the question. Did you keep that promise that you made to yourself? So I was thinking about this because this friend told me about it, about the 5-year anniversary. And then I was watching a show the other day. I was watching Sweet Magnolias on Netflix. That's my toxic trait, is watching these Netflix series when I'm on the treadmill. So someone in the show was asked, if you could do anything in your life, what would it be? Someone on the show passed away. So they were all having this reconciliation. And if you could do anything in your life, what would it be? And that got me thinking even more. And I said, I need to do this. I need to do this episode now. And here we are. So let's dive in. And let's think about this as an audit. Again, no judgment, no beating ourselves up. This is more about, all right, it's 5 years. Where are we? What we do? So here's my question for you to think about. Your first question, you're going to have a few. What was one thing that you said you would do differently, and did you do it? That's all. Why or why not? And you can send me an email if you want, or tag me on Instagram, or you can just sit with this question. What was one thing that you said you would do differently, and did you do it, or did you not? I'm going to get into some personal anecdotes in a second. Before I do that, I wanted to throw that question out there. All right. So what are the lessons that we learned that we may have forgotten, and what do we want to remember? For me, the environment of having fewer obligations, that was a huge, huge, huge learning for me. I loved it. There was no social pressure. I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to see anyone. I didn't have to talk to anyone. Now, I love people. I'm an extrovert. And at the same time, extroverts, they get their energy from other people. That's one of the definitions of an extrovert, which is true. I do. And I also need to recharge. And because I'm so outgoing, and because I gravitate towards people, I don't always give myself that time and space to recharge. During the pandemic, when I was locked in the house, literally for a very long time, I had the space and the time to just be. There was nowhere else to be. So I could just be there. Sure, I picked up new, not habits. I picked up new hobbies. I learned how to make cheese. I mean, all this stuff. And still, I had plenty of free time, so I could just be. And that was delightful. I mentioned in my email that I sent out this week, by the way, if you haven't signed up for the new email community that's going to launch April 4th, the Thrive Hive, there's a link in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link down in the comments. Sign up for the Thrive Hive. You definitely want to be there for launch, because we're going to be talking about things like this and other things about how we can purposely thrive and intentionally thrive. So how much of that stillness and that opportunity to be still exists today? So the example that I was talking about, a couple weeks ago, I had 2 weekend days, day nights, 2 weekend full 24 hours where I didn't have any commitments. And that's very rare for me. I'm a social person. I love to have people over. If I see you, I'm going to invite you over. If somebody says you want to get together, the answer is always going to be yes. And for whatever reason, we just didn't. And it was delightful it was bliss to not have an obligation. It was fantastic. And it got me thinking about that was part of why the pandemic, why I was able to really thrive during the pandemic, because I was able to go inward and I was able to just be. Okay. Lesson number 2. So one of the things I did was I really prioritized my health, and I want to say my mental health, my physical health, and my emotional well-being. A lot of people did not and were not able to prioritize their mental health. A lot of people suffered. And again, I recognize that. I am fortunate that I was not one of those people. I chose, and I'm not saying it's a choice for the people, and if you're one of them who suffered with depression or substance abuse or any of the isolation that came with that pandemic, that was not a choice. That's how your brain's wired. My brain is not wired that way. And I used that opportunity. I was able to use that opportunity to really focus on my mental health. So for me, that meant meditation, which I'm getting back to. I swore that when we got back to the normalcy of normal life, that I would meditate every day, every morning and every night. And I did for a while, and then I didn't, and I haven't been until recently. I've gone back to my bedtime meditation, which is for me the best way to go to sleep. And by the way, Brenda Johnston, who you know has been here several times on the podcast, she does an incredible meditation that I listened to before bed that really, it talks to your subconscious. So as you're drifting off to sleep, she's still going and your subconscious mind is hearing all these things. Huge difference in how I feel, how I behave. I feel lighter. My outlook is more positive. This is an awesome, awesome thing to do. And I'm going to link to it. Brenda was kind enough to gift this to all of us, and I'm going to link to it. Okay. So the mental clarity and focusing on my mental health was a priority. The yoga that I was able to do, and I'm not saying I was not training to be a yogi in Bali, and that was not something that I was focused on. I'd love to be able to do that. It's not something that's in my wheelhouse. I'm talking about 15 minutes a day. So every day at 5:00, I would meet Danny. This was during the pandemic. 5:00, we would meet in the basement and we would do yoga together. That was a lovely time. Sometimes it was 15 minutes, sometimes it was 20 minutes. It was never really a long time, but it was a special time. It was something we were doing together. It was something we shared together. It helped us physically, it helped us mentally. And it was something that it was a routine. So 5:00, we are done. We're done with our day. We are going to engage with each other and be present with each other and take care of ourselves. And it was amazing. Now, I'm getting back into it slowly, a little bit at a time, 15 minutes. I'm trying to do it every morning. Danny has said he will start to do it at least once in the next 30 days. But really what the lesson here is, I prioritized that and I felt great. So why am I not prioritizing it? Why am I letting the swirl of the world around me impact what I know I need to do? And that if I do it, I can thrive even in the most horrible circumstances, which is what we were in during the pandemic. Okay. Number 3. This one's a big one. So this is about human connection and true human connection. And I remember I would ask people and I would say to people, how are you really? That's what I would say. How are you really? We had this shared experience, this shared traumatic experience for many people. And when people asked how you were, they really meant it. And that's an incredible way to connect with another human being. And it's as easy as, how are you really? Not how are you, how's things, how's the family, but really, how are you? It's that simple. So here's my accountability question for you here. What habits, rituals, or behaviors did you create during the lockdown that made you feel your best? And are you still doing them? And if not, why not? These are the questions I'm asking myself. And frankly, for me, it's laziness or lack of commitment. It's lack of commitment. And I'm recommitting with you today, Podsters, to doing the things that I know I need to do. All right. Lesson number 3, prioritizing rest and recharging. I talked about that a second ago when I mentioned that I'm an extrovert and I need to recharge. I have to. If I don't, I'm a monster. I am. It's bad. So this is about intentionally scheduling alone time or communicating with boundaries with your loved ones. So here's a really great example. Last night, actually, I came in the house and Danny came in about three minutes after I did. And there was a lot going on. We had groceries to put away. There were packages that were there. We had somebody coming to pick something up. It wasn't chaos, but it was, it was go, 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 go. And then we sat down, we had dinner, and it was still, we were still kind of go, go, go. And at one point after dinner, I said to him, I said, so you know what, hon, I need like 20 minutes. I'm gonna go in the bedroom for like 20 minutes. I just need 20 minutes to go inward, to refocus, clear out a few thoughts, clear out a few texts I have to return. And I'm overstimulated. I just need like 20 minutes of quiet. And I have said this to him so often that he said, yep, I get it. I'll see you in 20 minutes. He knew what I needed because I was able to tell him what I needed. And because he knew that, he allowed me that time with grace. So really, the onus is on us, you and me, to be able to step out of that and say, okay, I'm overstimulated. I need a minute. That it's incredibly powerful. So in that same, like under that same topic, reconnecting with what matters most. And I'm going to explain what I mean there. Because we didn't have all these commitments and because we weren't jetting off here and rushing off there and taking care of everybody else, which many of us were in our household, I'm talking about the grand everybody else, we got to prioritize ourselves. And of course, we prioritized our kids and our friends and our partners and our pets. And at the same time, because there was so much time, we were able to prioritize ourselves as well. So here's my question for you. Are you prioritizing yourself as much as you'd like to? And if not, what can you change so that you can get a little closer to that, to where you want to be with that? It's a simple question. It's a good question, I think, actually. Okay. And then finally, in this genre is living with more intention. And that's, busyness. And you've heard me say it before, I'll say it again. It's not a badge of honor. Not over here, not over here. Unmute yourself. Running around like a chicken with your head cut off is not, that's to me, that's not impressive. So when somebody says to me that they work on a weekend or, they work all the time, that to me shows me that you're not prioritizing yourself or your family or your time. So are we still making space for things that bring us joy? People, places, things, anything, music, a candle, whatever it is, a game that you love to play. Are you making it a tea? And that's the difference between a full life. If you're running around doing all the things and for all the people, that's a very full life. Is it meaningful the way you'd like it to be meaningful? And where are you overcommitting? And can you dial that back a little bit? I ask you these things because these are the same things that I'm asking myself. And it's been fun. It's been a fun little audit or reality check. Okay. I think this might be the final. Here's your call to action. And here's my call to action. I'm going to do it with you. I am recommitting to living a life where I get to thrive every day, not just on weekends, not just when I'm on vacation. Oftentimes, I don't know if it's someone else or me, but I know I say it a lot. Instead of looking forward to your vacation, how about creating a life that you don't need a vacation from? How can you create a life that you don't need a vacation from? Instead of doing dry January, and this, I'm not throwing shade at people who do dry January. How about creating a life where you don't feel like you are drinking so much that you need to do a dry January, creating a life where you don't need to drink to be entertained or to escape or as a buffer. No shade. I am no stranger to a glass of wine. I'm saying when I see everybody in January do this dry January and grin and bear it through dry January, I think to myself, well, why wouldn't you create a life where you don't need to do that? Because you're not overindulging. Okay, so creating a life where we thrive. So we need the Thrive Hive mindset. This is not about a grand reinvention. It's not about moving to Bali and becoming a certified yoga instructor. Although if that's something that you want to do, great. I love it. Let me know. I'll come. I've been to Bali. It's awesome. It's about small daily choices that align with really how you want to live. Small little choices. It could be one little choice that you do tomorrow. Maybe it's a healthy breakfast. Maybe it's taking 15 minutes before you walk in your house and get assaulted by your family who you love. Maybe it's taking that 15 minutes in the car. I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about she has a ton on her plate, a ton. I don't know how she's doing it. And she has 3 children. I do not know how she's doing it. And we were talking about your adrenal glands and overload and burnout. And, I was telling her about what some of my friends do. And she asked, well, what do they do? And I said, well, one of them, actually, she's a doctor. She sits in her car for 2 minutes, 2 minutes before she goes in the house. That's all she needs. 2 minutes. Give yourself permission to rest and recalibrate. That's all. That's one suggestion. Okay. So here's what I'd like you to do, Podsters. Pick one thing from lockdown that made you feel amazing. There has to be one. Maybe it was binging all your favorite TV shows. I don't know. It doesn't have to be this holistic, let's stand on a mountaintop and manifest abundance. It can be anything. Well, maybe it was daily phone calls, or maybe it was Zoom meetings, catching up with old friends that you don't get to see. Again, we had so much time that we caught up with friends that we never really saw, even in real life. What's one thing? And can you bring it back this week? Can you focus on it this week? Can you bring it back and give it a shot? And if you really want to hold yourself accountable, 2 things you can do. One of them's with me and one of them's on your own. First thing you can do is set an alarm on your phone. I can't remember where I heard this. Somebody sets an alarm on their phone, and it could be something as simple as, let's say you want to have 5 minutes of just every day, 5 minutes, no scrolling, not even meditation, just 5 minutes of nothingness. Set a reminder on your phone. And maybe it goes off at 6 p.m. and it says, did you get your 5 minutes today? Maybe it goes off at 10 a.m. You know your schedule, you know your life. If you want to be a little more grand about it, you can set a reminder that says, am I living the life I want to live today? Can you imagine that popping up on your phone in the middle of the check-in line at Wegmans or wherever? That would be amazing. Talk about a quick, cold dose of reality to check yourself before you wreck yourself, because I love that expression. So put a reminder, or if you'd like to, send me a note on Instagram, reach out to me at nancymedoff@nancymedoff.com, put some comments in the comment section, because I know a lot of you are watching this on YouTube, and tell me what you're going to do. Tell me what's that one thing that you're going to bring back. I will give you mine. I'm going to give you mine. Ready? I am going, well, this is tough because I say this a lot and then I blow it off. So I'm putting it out there. I am going to honor my bedtime routine. This is important to me. If I don't, it derails my entire next day. And then I judge myself and I shame myself. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. I can't. I need the sleep that I need. So I'm going to go back to honoring my bedtime routine, and I'm going to aim for 5 nights of the week. Can't do it every night. I'm going to aim for 5. So that's my commitment to you, Podsters. So in closing, we made these promises to ourselves. We made them 5 years ago. So let's see what we can do to keep those promises together. I believe in you. I believe in me. I believe in us together. And I think we got this. I think we can do this. So let's go do it. Let's go thrive. I will see you next week, Podsters. And until then, peace out.